Greetings everyone, Melderon here on a new reaction video. So today we're going to be talking about, there's a buzz going on the internet right now in the Classic WoW community. You may have not heard of it, you may have. And it's the Classic Plus survey that apparently was sent out to a select group of people. I was not one of them. And it's not 100% confirmed if it's even real. But there have been posts in the Classic WoW subreddit. And I'll put a link in the description to the post that talks about this. So, you know, we're not 100% sure, but it's a good talking point either way, whether it's real or whether it's not. I'm leaning towards, of course, it is real. And we're going to watch two videos. One's longer than the other. The first is we're going to react to Staysafe reacting to Lore, the old community manager for World of Warcraft. Devolore, the actual guy, he has a YouTube channel. I'll link both his channel and Staysafe's in the description. I'm sure you guys know who Staysafe is, but he also has a clip archive. So I'll link to that channel and his Twitch channel. So we're going to watch Staysafe's response to it because after watching it, Staysafe and I align pretty much on everything, and he has some really good talking points that I want to elaborate on. And then we're going to watch a very short video made by Kargoz, what his kind of thoughts about what Classic Plus should be. But before we get to that, just a quick word. I have a friend of the channel has created a new gaming environment on Discord called Context. And this is a Discord for people to get together and play games in a very mature environment. I said I'd definitely give them a plug. So if you missed the days of game lobbies and fireside chats about the newest titles or wonder what that was like, Context could be the place for you. It's a haven for anyone looking to escape the politics and drama out there, for gamers of all stripes to talk about their interests with others who share them. Find community and make new friends, min or max. Context is a place for you. You can find them on Discord at discord.gg/context. Now, just a few points here is that it's a discrimination-free community. No politics or religion is discussed, and there's multiple games and genres, and all play styles are welcomed. So, again, if you want to check out a fun new gaming community on Discord where you can play with people that are fun and engaging, and it's, you know, free of some of the drama that you could find in Discord channels, Context would be the place for you. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start with Staysafe's reaction to Lore's reaction of the actual survey.
We're going to watch the video, then I'll link it out. Also, as we are watching this, I'm going to make, because I don't think I scanned this, I don't think he has a concise list of all the questions that are on the survey. So I want to compose a list of questions. I'm going to take notes while we're doing this. We're going to watch this entire thing. So probably because he was an ex-Blizzard staff, he formerly worked at Blizzard, he received the email. As far as I understand it, very few people have received
I've heard the same
this
thing.
email. Now, someone in the chat says, Hi Warlord of Chaz, no evidence the survey is real. I trust our source here. I guess it's up to you to determine. This guy, he still has friends at Blizzard. He has deep connections at Blizzard. He used to work at Blizzard. He was not fired. He retired or left Blizzard to go get a job somewhere else. So presumably he left on good terms. He was not fired. And so this is Lore. This is Josh Allen, I think is his name. Yeah, this is Lore. So I trust the source here. So we're going to play the video, okay? Let's go. I think he's probably not lying, and we're going to take a list of all of the Classic Plus questions, and I'm sure he's going to talk about it. I'm also going to put this on 1.15 because I'm an autistic person. Okay, so we're going to put that on 1.15. Let's go.
So have you ever thought about like when you have sort of a so you have basically there's this whole like here. You know, back when we used to have this whole like when there was that, you know, back when we.
What's the point of that?
Cool. All right, here we go.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Sounds Good Makes Sense, a discussion show for the World of Warcraft player. My name is Devolore, and today we have a bit of an interesting topic that I want to dig into. This is actually coming out of a survey that Blizzard has, at least as I'm told, sent out to a whole bunch of players, well, at least to one player that I know of, who then sent it to me. Talking about some potential ideas for updates and changes for Classic in the future. And because we've been talking about Classic a lot here on the show for a while, and specifically bringing up the idea of Classic Plus a lot, I thought it'd be interesting to sort of dig into the idea of what would Blizzard specifically be thinking about. And since we have this list of essentially ideas that was ostensibly part of this survey, that makes a very good opportunity to sort of dig into that a little bit and see what we can think about that. Now, before we continue, I want to clarify a few things here. This, again, was sent to me by a viewer. I was not invited to this survey by Blizzard. This is something that a viewer just took a couple of screenshots of, like, essentially a list of topics and sent those to me. Now, in the past, Blizzard has asked for confidentiality in a lot of the surveys like this, but more recently, they've been dropping that off a lot. There's actually been a few surveys that I know of sent out more recently where they don't ask for confidentiality at all. And that's becoming much more common around the entire gaming industry because these developers sort of...
Now, once again, I suppose we can't know for certain the authenticity of this survey, whether or not this is 100% real. What I can say is every single survey that Blizzard has sent out over the last 5 years relating to Classic WoW has resulted in that very thing, in the subject of the survey actually releasing at some point. They had a survey for TBC. And when the TBC survey came out, people said, oh, they're probably not going to do TBC. It's just a survey. It's inconsequential. We got TBC. The same thing happened for Wrath. The same thing happened for Kata survey. People chirping, it doesn't matter. And then you get Kata. They did a survey for Season of Mastery. They did a survey for Season of Discovery.
They did.
Okay? So what follows historically for the last 5 or 6 years, every survey is an actual release of a game.
Realize, yes, we still need to do these surveys, but we know someone's going to leak it anyway, so why add that extra layer of, don't tell anyone about this, because it's kind of like unnecessary for a lot of things at this point. So I don't know if there was a confidentiality agreement in place for the survey or not.
But the big question for me is, guys, why aren't they surveying the whole community like Jagex does with RuneScape?
Because it's much more common for there to not be those these days. That's the reason that I feel comfortable even talking about it here on the show. Regardless, what that means is that we're missing a lot of the context for this. I don't have this survey myself. It was not sent to me by Blizzard, which means the entirety of the survey and the specifics of how they ask questions throughout that, assuming that the survey even exists in the first place. I don't have any reason to believe that the person who sent me this is lying, but again, I don't have any of that context.
I want to apologize now, but lore is extremely verbose, and it's going to make the video long. But I don't want to miss Staysafe reactions to it because I really like what he has to say, so we're going to have to just deal with it.
Text myself, so just making you aware of what my role in this whole situation is and the amount of knowledge that I have. I literally just have this list of features that Blizzard is potentially considering for Classic in some capacity. And I thought at the very least it would make a good list of talking points to go through, because a lot of what they mentioned in this list of topics is the sort of thing that sprouts some good sort of like theorizing and speculation and consideration of what would these changes even be like if they were ever added into Classic. I also want to throw a quick reminder that this is all just my opinions about what sort of game I personally would like to play. If the version of Classic that I want to play is different from the version of Classic that you want to play, then that's totally fine. Like, I fully respect that there are people who have a different opinion and a different desire to play just a different form of Classic. Like the whole 40-player
mine too.
Okay. I'm going to skip into the survey part.
But enough disclaimers and setting the stage for all of this discussion. Let's actually get into it. The first one on the list that I want to talk about is the first one on the list, incidentally. And I was glad to see this one on top of the list because I just did a video about this like three and a half weeks ago at this point. And that concept is new or unexplored storylines and lore. And the description is never before seen quests that are new to World of Warcraft Classic. And like I said, I did a video about this about 3.5 weeks ago. I really, really love this for Classic. I think this is a great opportunity. I think Classic in general is a great opportunity for Blizzard to go back and just put some little things here and there. It doesn't need to be like a huge like expansion.
Let me ask you something for Season of Discovery Phase 4. You know the Void Crystal crafting profession quest chain, that storyline? Have they continued that in Phase 4 of SOD? The whole Void Crystal thing? The Void entity that's helping you make your Void gear? Is that a thing in Phase 4 of Season of Discovery? Not yet. Okay, maybe it releases with Molten Core. Maybe it's a Molten Core thing. I don't know.
Level quest line where you're going to brand new zones, or there's whole new like villains being introduced and stuff like that. I mean, a villain or two here and there would be fine, but we don't need to have like full on like here's a new world crisis being put into the game sort of stuff. I think to me the biggest thing about Classic
I agree with that.
is, and one of the biggest reasons that
I don't think there's any reason to add huge amounts of like lore that exists in other expansions. I think that's probably a little pointless. There's enough in Classic that was unexplored to continue with that. Now, if you go past Nax, it gets a little wonky. And I know I talked about this in the Multiverse video where I said, you know, there should be at least one post-raid like raid tier, and that could be Dragon Isles or whatever, right? I don't necessarily think that's needed. I think it can be something laterally or before next.
Gravitate towards Classic, even in 2024, is that it's an MMO where it feels like you're exploring a world. It's an MMO where it feels like you are surrounded by any million other things that are going on, and you as a player get to have your adventure of going around that world and finding these different little things that are occurring.
If they're going to have new storylines or lore, you know what they should do with it? Put it in a new zone. Have a new leveling zone.
Yeah, man.
have an entirely new zone, and then fill that new zone with new storylines and lore.
But one thing I want to pose Staysafe a question here is I think it gets a little wonky though, right? Because there's some options when you're leveling, right? But I feel like as a Horde, I play Horde exclusively, right? So pretty much I've played Alliance a few times. It's pretty like there's not a lot of options, right? And I feel like you have to be careful of where you put, what level ranges you put these no zones in. I think in the 40s and 30s it's okay, but I think if it's lower than that, you're kind of like, okay, there's so many quests available from like 10 to 20 and 20 to 30 in my opinion. As Horde, again, I'm coming from a Horde perspective, that I don't know if another zone in those level ranges would be too much bloat. What do you guys think?
And never before seen quests. That's what they should do.
Finding all these little
That's what they should have done inside.
Ways you can help people, ways you can hinder people, and so on.
Yeah.
You get to go around the world and experience it as a world, as opposed to a direct narrative experience, which just is like, I don't have a problem with a direct narrative experience. I don't have a problem with the way that WoW tells stories in 2024.
Well,
how the modern game tells stories. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Terrible.
I think that's good for that game. But I think for Classic, a big part of that vibe is that sense of exploration, that sense of being immersed into a world where there's a million things going on, and they're not all interconnected. They're not all leading towards one big narrative arc where there's one big bad guy at the end of it that you have to defeat.
It's true.
There's just a ton of stuff going on because it's a world. It feels lived in. It feels alive.
It does feel lived in and alive.
And I think having new and unexplored storylines and lore, as they put it, inside of the Classic environment is a great way to expand on that, keep that Classic vibe as much as possible, while still allowing for the possibility of some new stuff that you haven't seen before. But again, I did a whole video on that, like I said, about 3.5 weeks ago. You can go back and check that video if you want a more complete understanding of what exactly I'm talking about. We're going to move on. The next one on the list is new reputations and rewards, with the description being introduction of new factions to build reputation that...
Okay, I don't think you need new reputations. I think you just need to build out the ones that already exist. Thorium Brotherhood, you know, the Hydraxian Waterlords, they're just kind of pointless. And I think if you just build those out, you don't need new reputations. Now, if you bring out a new raid tier, you kind of have to have a reputation attached to that, and I understand that, and that's fine. But I also think you should put love into the ones that are already there.
That unlocks new rewards. And this bullet...
By the way, Turtle WoW has done a lot of this stuff. And I don't want to, like, plug Turtle WoW, but it would be stupid for Blizzard not to look at that as a guiding light to how to do Classic Plus, because they did an excellent job. And they could steal whatever they want because it's their IP, right? I'm not saying they have to like copy and paste Turtle WoW. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying like stuff exists that is technically Classic Plus, and I wouldn't stray too far from that.
To me, is kind of a giant question mark. Like, I don't have a problem with the concept of new reputations. I don't have a problem with the concept of new rewards. To me, a reputation is literally just like, it's literally just a gameplay hook, right? It's literally just a form of progression, a form of measuring progression. So to me, saying new reputation...
I think that reputations in Classic WoW are like generally pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree?
They are.
I think that the way that TBC or Wrath did professions, really TBC professions are really good. If they had like TBC style professions in Vanilla WoW in Classic Plus, I think that would be a good way to do it. A lot of reps in Vanilla Classic are just sort of underwhelming. Timbermaw, Hydraxian. Why do you care about Hydraxian Waterlord rep other than to get one item, and you never think about it other than that? You don't care about it. Thorium Brotherhood is very underwhelming. Timbermaw Hold is very underwhelming. Almost all of it is just underwhelming.
My God.
And rewards is about the same as saying new ways to earn experience points. Like, that's such a broad and wide topic that it doesn't really mean anything to me. Again, I was told by the person that sent this in that a lot of these questions went into greater detail through the actual survey. So I'm sure there is much more that's going on with this one. As it is, it's difficult for me to really examine from a direct perspective. But I don't have a problem, like I said, with new reputations and rewards, like the Warden's reputation that's been added to Season of Discovery. I thought that was fine. The incursions ended up falling a little bit flat overall for me, but it was fine having a nice little relatively...
If you don't watch my videos, I don't play SOD, so I don't know exactly all the things that were added, but I want to say that in addition to Turtle WoW as an inspiration point, you could use SOD as inspiration as well, but I would really be cautious when drawing from that because of the egregious class changes. But we'll get to that later.
easy rep grind in there that you were able to get some rewards from. Things like I didn't even have a problem with the whole Azeroth Commerce Authority / Duratar trading. I forget exactly what the Horde version of that reputation was called. Didn't have a problem with that directly either. The problem I had was with the crates. The crates have just been, to me, kind of a miss from start to finish. But I guess that's generally my thoughts on new reputations and rewards. It would depend entirely on how they are implemented and what the actual gameplay hook of gaining that reputation is. If it's something as simple as like, go grind this bunch of mobs and then eventually you get something, that actually feels fairly classic to me. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, especially if maybe that new reputation and that grinding those mobs was tied to like a new dungeon or something that you could go do. I think there's lots of ways this sort of stuff could be implemented. To me, it's more about, I'm open to the idea. I'm fine with the concept of adding new reputations and rewards. It's really down to the implementation and what you actually do to earn this stuff. That's the point where it really starts to ask questions for me. We'll do the next two together. There is new or reimagined raids, and then new or reimagined dungeons.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't do this, right? Again, you have to be cautious of the timetable. So one new raid is probably all you can really do. And then dungeons, man, like, there's so much cool shit you can do with dungeons. Timbermaw Hold. What I wouldn't do, though, is what they did with Sod. I don't want the existing dungeons to be fucked with. Just add a few dungeons during the leveling experience that are new. That's all. That's all I'm asking for. Don't change shit that's already there. Just develop new shit that is in the classic flavor, provides new rewards and quests, and that'll be a lot of fun.
It's basically the concept.
Not reimagined.
Yeah,
we are sick.
Thank you, Staysafe.
We, the people, are sick of reimagined content. We want new content. Fuck reimagined content. Give us new content.
Should there be more group instanced content or reimagined instance content inside of Classic? And again, this one does say within Classic era. I don't think they should go to the almost museum version at this point of World of Warcraft. I don't think they should go back and rewrite Classic era itself. I generally would prefer the Classic era be mostly left alone. Again, fine with a few little quality of life changes. Things
they can't change anything anymore.
I don't want that to be something where they go, hey, let's go through Classic era Molten Core and update it to be like it is in Season of Discovery. No, leave that Molten Core as it is as a 40-player raid.
Obviously.
But assuming that we're talking about something that doesn't replace that version of Classic era, this is something new, the concept essentially of a Classic Plus server, then yes, I'm absolutely all for both of these things. I think reimagining some of those old raids and sort of plussing them up a bit so that they have something more to them than just, do you remember where your decurse button is? Do you know how to not stand in fire? Like, even fights like Cthulhu.
You don't... Okay, this is getting too far. You don't have to add mechanics to raids that exist. Because I've said this a million times. Why is Classic WoW popular, everyone? Because it's fucking easy. Right? It's the PvE game part of the Classic WoW. The group content I'm talking about. Because there's myriad reasons why it's good. But the reason why group content and PvE content is good is because you can do it with a group of ragtag adventurers and have a good time. That's why. Don't make it mechanically challenging. We saw what happened with Season of Mastery with that. Mechanically challenging, just tedious. Don't make it tedious.
Which is an incredibly strict fight on 40 players in terms of positioning and so on.
It's still easy.
Even fights like that are relatively simple compared to a lot of modern MMO and modern WoW fights. And I don't think they should aim to be as complex as some of the modern fights, just to be absolutely clear. I'm not asking for mythic raiding, like Dragonflight mythic.
I'm going to be honest, man. Like, I feel like every second of dev time that is spent making harder raid content is wasted. They should spend 100% of that time making new world content.
Absolutely.
100% of dev time should be new quest lines, new zones, new areas to explore. Making Ragnaros slightly harder, it's like who gives a fuck? Who cares? Yeah. Who fucking cares? New zones, new dungeons, new raids, new quest chains, new places to explore. That's what the people want.
Easy.
Raiding to exist inside of class.
Because no one is going to look at some Classic Plus and say, oh, wow, Molten Core is slightly harder now? Man, I can't wait to try that. Who gives a fuck? No one gives a shit about that.
I think that would be a bad idea.
And get bindings.
But there's a lot of fights that at the very least could... And Cthulhu, by the way, is not on the list of what I'm talking about. I think Cthulhu is fine. But I'm talking about the idea of there's a lot of fights where I think just giving it another mechanic or two so they're not boring would be nice. A lot of what I mentioned earlier, the whole concept of parse culture, a lot of why that came about is because there kind of isn't much else to really focus on. There isn't much else to really strive for inside of
Parsing and
classic raiding in a lot of ways for a lot of people.
Wrong. There's speedrunning. The entire like competitive classic rating scene is all based on speedrunning, parsing and speedrunning really ultimately.
Sure.
And so this it's such like a frustrating conversation, I guess, because you often hear people say, and generally it's people that I think don't play a lot of classic WoW, frankly, or don't play a lot of like higher level parsing or speedrunning classic WoW. They maybe play at a lower level, I'm not sure. They will often talk about, man, classic WoW needs harder content, when all of the higher level players in classic WoW are actually totally satisfied doing next Rammus speedruns or Molten Core speedruns. I feel like the higher end classic rating community is totally satisfied. They're happy parsing. They're happy doing speedrun.
Yeah, and the people below that tend to struggle a little bit, and that's fine. As long as you have the mass... It's okay. This is probably a... I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but the most guilds struggled in Nax. Even a little bit. When I say struggle, I mean even 10% struggle, right? There was wipes, there was this, there was that. The higher end people don't care because they're just parsing, and every little mistake costs them time, and that's fine. There's no reason to make any of this stuff harder. There's no reason to make it more tedious. That's the question. That's really the word. It's not hard. It's not difficulty. It's tedium. If it's tedious, people aren't going to play and have a good time, and that's why Classic's great.
Runs. So this narrative that there is some community desire for harder raid content, I don't really think that that's true. I don't think many people
I don't think so either.
Actually really flock to Classic WoW looking for harder content. The difficulty, if you're seeking difficulty, it's already there in the form of speedrunning. And by the way, Classic WoW has an awesome speedrunning community. Like, it's competitive, it's vibrant, there are a lot of guilds that participate. I think that meta is fine. I think it's fine.
So it ends up coming down to, okay, how fast can we actually kill this boss? It almost becomes a speed run of sorts. And I don't think that necessarily needs to change, but it could be a more interesting speed run. It'd be more, I don't know, in the moment having fun than just like straight up going through your DPS rotation and hoping to push as many buttons as you possibly can. I think it'd be fine to add another mechanic or two to certain fights here and there.
Okay.
Same goes for dungeons. There's a few of them where it's just every boss that you come to is just a straight up tank and spank. It's like, okay, this is a boss technically, but all they do is they have more health and they hit a little bit harder.
Who complains about this? Like, I don't know who... I've never heard anyone in-game or on Discord say, man, I wish that the Hydra at the end of Black Fathom Deeps did something else.
Harder than the trash mobs you cleared to get to them. So, again, I don't have a problem with buffing that stuff up a little bit, giving a few more interesting things here and there, and updating some of the loot a little bit as well. I think those
Loot's
are good changes that can occur to
tables.
Classic that will still sort of keep the vibe of Classic and how it worked intact, but different ways to, just make it a little bit.
Make it show each boss drops maybe one more piece of gear. Maybe for a class of armor that they don't usually drop. Fine.
More interesting. And as to the concept of new raids and new dungeons, yes, absolutely. Like I was talking before about the new and unexplored storylines, I think hooking in some new raids or dungeons to those unexplored storylines would be a great way to tie all that together. It'd be a great way to give players more to do inside of the Classic sort of paradigm. I'm just very much in support of all of this stuff. We're going to do the next couple together as well, because my answer to them is very similar for both. This is the concept of new or future races pulled back, and then the concept of new...
What do we mean pulled back?
Oh, I know what he
Introducing races from WoW's expansions to Classic era. Oh.
No.
Okay.
No.
Races and classes.
Okay, I'm a big no for both of these. And there's a couple reasons why. The first is the lore doesn't make sense. Okay? If you pull back those stupid Fox people from retail, how the fuck are you going to explain that? You can maybe explain Pandarans, but we don't want that shit because we play Classic WoW, right? Fuck pandas, fuck Mr. Pandaria, we want vanilla, right? So, lore-wise, it doesn't make sense. Okay? Classes, for the same reason. If you pull back something from retail now, it makes no sense in the game. The only class that you can maybe make an argument for is Death Knights, but at this point in the game, you don't access Death Knights until the last tier of the game, pretty much. Okay, you can Baron Riven there is technically a Death Knight, but it doesn't make sense because most of the game, for most players, you're fighting against different enemies. It made sense in Wrath of the Lich King because you're fighting the Lich King from the start. It doesn't make sense. there's enough there's enough class and race heterogeneity in Classic WoW to make it interesting. But I will say this: you could add races that make sense. Turtle WoW has done this. Again, High Elves for the Alliance, Goblins for the Horde. Something in that nature is completely fine because it already exists in the world. And then, classes, all you really got to do is new race class combinations. There's enough classes. The D&D, the beautiful D&D architecture of classes is there. You don't have to add anything to it. Could you have orc mages and stuff like that? Sure. Could you have human hunters and undead hunters? Yeah, that's fine, right? I think most people would think that that's probably a smart move.
Okay.
Or future classes pulled back. And the description for both of these is pretty much the same. Introducing races or classes, from WoW's expansions to Classic Era. Again, the whole thing about Classic Era being left alone, make this a new thing, make this a Classic Plus or whatever. Just reminder of all of that as we're talking about this.
Okay, so let's talk about this here for a second. I'm not sure what he's going to say. First thing that comes to mind. Shaman needs to remain Horde only.
Oh.
Paladin needs to remain Alliance only.
Sorry, I didn't
True
say
or
that.
false?
Yeah.
I say true.
True.
You need to have that differentiation. Paladin has to be Alliance only. Shaman has to be Horde only. It's iconic. It's that faction rivalry, okay? You have something unique, and we have something unique. I think that's important. It's a give and a take. It's a kiss and a curse. Beyond that, do you guys want Draenei? Do you guys want Blood Elves? Do you guys want Pandaren? Do you guys want more races? Do you guys want to be a playable Naga? Do you want to be an ogre?
A Naga.
I don't think we need that.
We don't
need that.
I think it's
Do
fine.
you guys want new...
If you had those two races.
Well, we talked about classes. I think this is the only thing you could go from here. Do you guys want new classes? No, I don't think anyone wants new classes in Classic WoW. I think that changes a lot. Now, what about this?
It does change a lot.
New race class combinations. Human Hunter. Undead Hunter. Dwarf Mage. I don't know, something like that. I think that's like, if anything, that's okay. That's okay-ish. Anything else, I wouldn't touch it. Anything else, I wouldn't touch.
Again, I want to stress this point because, I don't know if anybody's new to the channel, don't know who I am. If they just did it fresh without anything changed, I'd play the fuck out of it. This is what I'm doing, is saying what I'd be okay with, right? If anything is additional to that, I'll stay on private. Sorry, guys, that's how I feel, right? There's a few things you can do that won't corrupt the game. And the things we're going to be talking about today, and Staysafe's very aligned with those things, are those things that are what I'm okay with.
Gotcha. New race class combos, I think maybe you could make it work. Let's see what he says.
My thoughts on this one is, honestly, it depends on the race, it depends on the class. I think it would be weird for, Drakthir Evokers to turn up in Classic without the Dragon Isles being around. Why are these guys here? Where do they come from? What's going on with this? That's a little bit weird. Yeah. I think it would depend on, and to that point as well, actually, I think there's possibility for some races that don't exist in the modern.
Let me ask you this. If any race is to be added in Classic Plus, which race makes the most sense? Draenei don't make sense because you have to have the crashing of the Exodar.
Yeah, see?
I think probably High Elves. High Elves or Blood Elves or yeah, probably something like that.
Totally okay.
Ogres. There's a lot of ogres running around.
But you have to ask yourself, why did Blizzard not put High Elves in? Is because there's so little of them left. And it's kind of a stretch in TBC that Blood Elves are available. Because there's not many of them left.
Naga. There's a lot of Nagas out there. The problem with Nagas is that they don't have feet.
Yeah.
And they can't ride a mount. Nagas are weird. I think there's a reason why after 20 years of people talking about playable race Nagas, we haven't gotten them. I think it's just it can't be done. Worgen could be done. That is true. You could make Worgen make sense.
You could. They have to be an alliance, though, and then you can't do High Elves. I think High Elves is a better option.
It would be Worgen and High Elves or something. Yeah. I think those are probably your two most likely candidates. Yeah.
modern game for various reasons to then exist inside of classic era and probably.
But what, in my opinion, the reason why I think Goblins is good is because the Horde doesn't have a small race. Alliance does. They have dwarves, right? Or, sorry, gnomes. So I think Goblins would be a good anti-gnome. And because of the engineering storyline, right?
Furbolg, dude, I would love Furbolg. I love Furbolgs. Furbolgs are like my favorite thing in Vanilla WoW. I love Furbolgs. I hope we get a Timbermaw dungeon or raid. I want to see something Timbermaw. Furbolgs are fucking awesome.
Some fan favorites as well. Like the one that immediately pops to mind for me is High Elves. Obviously, in the modern game, we have both Blood Elves and Void Elves, and those basically are what's left of the High Elves, right? Like there's probably a few characters still kicking around somewhere that could be called a High Elf because they decided not to follow Kael'thas Sunstrider, and also didn't get caught up in the whole Void thing. So there's probably some characters around that still fit that description. But as far as a playable race, if you were to add High Elves at this point, like what would the difference be between a well-customized Void Elf or a well-customized Blood Elf? Like, honestly, you can make a Blood Elf that just is a High Elf these days and call them a High Elf.
This is that would be crazy talk.
So I don't necessarily think adding High Elves to the modern game would be a good idea. But that could be the sort of thing that would absolutely fit very well inside the classic sort of paradigm, the classic era. In this sense, I'm trying to avoid using the word era because, again, classic era means something else at this point. But
say classic plus
to fit inside of the classic environment, there we go, that will work. I think adding something like High Elves would make sense. Adding something like Goblins, but not necessarily Worgen, because timelines being different and all that, or time frames being different and all that.
No goblins
going around.
No
goblins. I think Worgen would be fun for the classic environment.
We don't like goblins.
The other question to ask specifically about races here is what are those player models? What do those actually look like? And I think we're going to get into, as I recall, one of the later, actually, no, okay. There is not on this list the concept of player models. So I'm going to just talk about.
By the way, okay, I am keeping list of every question on the survey here. At the end of this, I will post this list in my Discord if you guys want to see the entire list at the end. But we're watching through the video first, okay? But I will post this in the Discord so you guys can go over it with your friends or your community afterwards, okay? Let's keep playing the video, though.
About the concept of player models here, because this is one that comes up a whole bunch. I hope that I'm not getting that incorrect.
So this is dumb. Okay, we talked about this years ago. You have to differentiate between classic and retail. The world would look weird with new player models and the rest of the world untouched. They're not going to redo the whole world. That's not going to happen. And the new player models are hard. Their animations are terrible. They're too, like, Disney looking. And that's just not. It's not gonna work. And he's gonna talk about a toggle. I know he is. And the problem with the toggle is this, and it's not the fact that it's hard to code. It's the fact that when you turn on YouTube and you watch a video, let's say it's my video or Kargoz's or whoever's, you immediately know it's classic WoW. Why? Because of the way the characters look. A toggle breaks down the immediate understanding when you watch a video or watch someone stream what game they're playing. And I think that you have to preserve that as much as you possibly can. Now, if you add new races, that's going to add a little bit of a questioning, but that's going to be, if they do the races properly, like Turtle WoW did, that they look like the era that they're from. Like the goblins don't look like the goblins in retail. They look like the goblins in the game. It's easy to tell. So I think it's very, very important to capture the classic art style in anything you do in a Classic Plus.
Because I seem to remember when I was going through this on stream, I seem to remember talking about player models for a little bit. But anyway, I think what player models these races would have would be very important. Because a lot of people will say, like, should they bring the modern player models into Classic? And to me, the answer is no. To me, taking the modern game player models and putting them in Classic, I would not want to see that myself specifically. If it's an option that you can toggle on or off, then it's kind of whatever. Like, it wouldn't affect me. You could just be like, yeah, okay, I'm just going to leave that turned off. But the biggest reason that I would not want that turned on is because there's a different feel to the modern player models. There's a different feel to how they work entirely, especially when they're animations, like moving around, the way that they go through the different.
The retail animations are way too. You know what? Okay, hold up. I need
Disney
30 seconds. I'm going to give you guys a comparison. Okay.
It's too soft.
Hold up here.
I mean soft in many different ways, not just...
The first example.
Yeah.
This. Okay. The 1990s Batman cartoon. Who here watched this as a kid growing up?
Oh,
awesome.
Of course.
Okay. So we have that image on the screen, and then another image I want to bring up is, I guess I'll use this image. Okay, this is Rick and Morty, which is a really great show. You need to have a super high IQ to understand it. We all love it. Show. On the left here is classic WoW. It's a bit stronger. It's more rigid.
It's a pretty good metaphor.
The animations, the movement, it's a little bit more stiff and brutal almost. I'm not sure the exact word I want to use. Rick and Morty, it's very fluid. It's very flowy. It's very rounded. It's very soft. It's very almost flamboyant at times. Gloopy gloppy. And I don't know if this analogy makes sense here, if you guys are sort of with me on this, but retail WoW has like very Rick and Morty animations. Classic WoW has much more 1990s Batman cartoon animations.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you guys kind of understand the point I'm making? It is a different feel. It does feel different. The movement is different.
Different animations just feels very different to me in a way that feels inauthentic to the nature of everything else that's going on in Classic. Classic animations are very stiff. There's very little like expression. They're not super expressive at all. They're not super animated. Literally, all of the animations are very stiff. To me, the modern player models would feel very out of place inside Classic, to the point that it would be immersion breaking for me, which is why I would leave that off. Again, if it was just an option, I don't care. If you want them on, sure, whatever. But I would generally leave that off. I also think that there's probably some technical reasons why making that a toggle would actually be difficult, but it's hard to describe exactly what I mean by that.
No toggle.
It comes down to animations for different spells.
No toggle.
New spells to
no new animations.
Whatever. Anyway. So that's generally my thought on races. Classes is much the same way. I don't feel like Evoker coming back would make sense. They could pull back Monk. They could pull back Death Knight. Both of those would kind of work. Monk would basically have to be redone from the ground up. Death Knight would have to be significantly adjusted as well to the way the old talent trees work. Less work for Death Knight. You'd just end up pruning a bunch of talents and like slimming things out, slimming the tree.
If anything, Death Knight would work. Out of anything, it would be Death Knight. But still, no. But still, no. Yeah. Still, absolutely no. But maybe Death Knight would work. But still, no.
He's down a bunch or merging a bunch of talents and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Monk never existed inside of an environment where there was the point-based talent trees.
You know what else would work? Demon Hunter.
No, it wouldn't.
I'm like, I don't want it. I'm thinking kind of like lore reasons. Does it make sense in the world? I don't want Demon Hunter. They should.
If anything, it would have made sense in TPC.
Would not do that. Would it kind of make sense in a certain way? Kind of. By the way, there is one Demon Hunter in Vanilla WoW. In Classic WoW. There might be more. No, I think there's just one. You can go visit a Demon Hunter. There is a Demon Hunter in-game in Classic WoW right now. Always has been. He's the guy in Ashara on the island. His name is Thalicipedes or whatever his name is. Thalasipede, whatever the fuck that guy's name is. Yeah, and he actually has a quest chain. He has a pretty long quest chain, actually. You can go do stuff with him.
It's up until Dragonflight. So, and even then, the Dragonflight talent trees are very different from the old, like, classic talent tree style. So, Monk would basically need to be redone. Death Knight, I think, could work. But also at the same time, like, again, I think the idea of let's explore some new concepts. Let's come up with some new ideas for classes that can work inside of Classic.
No, that's
that we wouldn't necessarily explore other.
That is so much work. Like, you guys might be thinking, Melderon, you're okay with them adding a zone but not a new class. It's so much more work to add a class. Because you have to balance that class. You have to make it work with other classes. You have to make a niche that is there that needs to be filled. In my opinion, there are no niches in Classic WoW class-wise that need to be filled. There aren't. You can add some flavor to the classes through maybe one or two abilities, very minor changes, like taunts and stuff like that for certain classes. But there's no niches that need to be filled, in my opinion.
Otherwise, like in the modern game, in the War Within, for example, there's a hero talent tree called Dark Ranger, which means we can probably assume there is never going to be, at least not anytime soon, there's going to be a Dark Ranger class inside of the modern World of Warcraft archetype. But that is the sort of thing that could make sense.
What if they added a new spec? You have Classic Plus, and every single pre-existing class gets a new spec. They all have 4 specs now.
Again, there's
Warlock
no
gets Necromancy, maybe. Hunter gets Dark Ranger. You get, I don't know. Who knows?
No need
Crazy.
for a classic environment where they could say, okay, here's a Dark Ranger. Yes, they use a bow. Yes, they use a gun.
That might be a
and they're similar
question
to
in new
hunters
specs.
in that
I wonder if
sense.
they'll
But here's
bring
all
that
the
up.
different things they do. They're much more spell focused. Maybe their minions
Also
are
a
more
lot of work.
temporary than permanent.
A ton of
Stuff
work.
like that. Like there's a lot of different ways that a Dark Ranger class could be implemented inside of the concept of classic that doesn't step on anything else because they haven't implemented it in some other way. Like if you remember when Legion added Demon Hunters.
Here's what I'll say. This is kind of off topic, but if Classic WoW, if the Classic devs, if Blizzard is actually going to seriously tackle Classic Plus, they can't do it in this flippy, floppy, halfway in, halfway out, we're kind of invested, but we're kind of not
That's so true,
approach that they've taken with Season of Mastery and Season of Discovery. For instance, the reason why Sod Phase 3 took and ended up lasting 2 times longer than it should have, and Sod Phase 4 was delayed by 6 weeks, is because they were focused on Cataclysm launch.
Yeah.
They had to get Cataclysm out the door. If they're going to do Classic Plus, they can't do that. They need a team dedicated to Classic Plus, solely and exclusively Classic Plus. That's what they do 100%. They're the Classic Plus guys. They're not multi-managing several projects at once. They are Classic Plus, all in. This whole halfway in, halfway out thing, not going to cut it. You need to deep dick Classic Plus. You need to deep dick it and not pull out
I agree, man.
Eggrind, you need to deep dick it. Do you understand me?
Eggrind, you need to deep dick it, bro.
Motherfucker. Thank you. Okay.
Quite famously, there was a Q&A that Ian and I were doing where the question came up, like, what's going on with demonology? And Ian was like, because we don't want you playing demonology. And then it was later revealed that the reason they didn't want you playing demonology was because they were going to have to redo it a whole lot in order to allow demon hunters to exist as a class, because so much of the demonology warlock class fantasy had been built around this concept, at the time at least, had been built around metamorphosis and things that were then stereotypically demon hunter abilities. They needed to pull those away from the warlock and give them to the actual demon hunter class. That's the sort of thing.
All you classic Andes right now, like I'm talking to you specifically, like this is just who gives a shit about this stuff, dude? Just get to the point. Talk to them about the survey.
That needs to be avoided in the modern game and needs to be avoided in Classic as well. But there's less issues with that sort of thing in Classic because a lot of that stuff has not been implemented as of yet. So I think there's lots of angles to explore for new classes that could exist inside of the Classic archetype that wouldn't.
Why does it even need to be Classic Plus? Why not go full seasonal experiments? This, I gotta say, and I gave a very heated 20-minute monologue about this yesterday. You can find it on YouTube, actually, if you type in Staysafe, Season of Discovery. This whole seasonal approach to Classic WoW,
it's so
Seasons
lazy, man.
of blank, is a terrible approach. It is destined to fail. So, like, at a foundational level, the formula for what they're doing is fucked. It's a bad formula. Seasonal anything for Classic WoW is bad. What we need is the exact opposite. We need a long-term commitment, a long-term endeavor, a long-term approach. And this is what RuneScape did. This is what the Jagex OSRS developers did with old school RuneScape. And by the way, the game is stunning. It's just...
There are more people that play old school RuneScape now than ever have, because they take care and pride in their community, and they talk to their community, and they get things done with a hyper majority, and that's how it should be done with Classic as well. And it's just fucking stupid, man. They don't.
Just better and better over time. We need a long-term commitment, not this seasonal, very flippant, half-assed approach.
Makes sense to add to the modern game, but would make sense when these other things don't already exist. All right, next one on the list, they talk about minor class changes. And the description is slight modifications to class spells and abilities.
Here we go.
And I think I'm generally okay with the idea of minor class changes. In fact, I encourage some minor class changes. Things like I've been playing a druid for the majority of SOD at this point. And one of the changes that they made was taking there's a talent, I forget the name of it, it's like Natural Instincts or something like that. That's relatively...
How would you guys characterize Season of Discovery class changes? Would you call Season of Discovery class changes minor?
Egregious.
I would not. I would call them major, out of control, beyond the pale, like way too far, too much.
Yeah, of course.
But don't let Season of Discovery ruin the idea of minor class changes. I think despite some of the class rebalance...
Turtle WoW has done this. They've added very, very colorful and changes to classes that don't disrupt the Classic WoW ecosystem. They've made Druids, Paladins better tanks. They've made Shaman more versatile. They made Retribution Paladins playable to an extent, added Crusader Strike, stuff like that. without severely dampening the other classes and weakening them. And I think that that type of mentality is very, very good for the game. It keeps the classic WoW ecosystem intact. It keeps the class infrastructure intact. And, you know, again, all Blizzard has to do is look at the success of Turtle WoW and what it's done. You may have some slight modifications that you want to do differently, but it's your game, Blizz. It doesn't matter that it exists in a private server. Take what the fuck you want, man. Why would you spend so much dev time doing something that you consider to be unique and new when the answers are partially there?
Balancing failures of Season of Discovery, that I think we all agree they've gone too far. We can still, as a concept, we can say, yeah, it's entirely possible to make tasteful, limited class changes and have them fall in alignment with the vision of Vanilla WoW.
Yeah.
I think that can be done. Do you guys think that can be done? I think that can be done. Is that what Season of Discovery did? No, they went way too far. But I think you can. I think it is possible to have tasteful class changes. I do think so, in a very limited way.
The top of the balance tree that previously was just 10% physical damage. Having balance have a physical damage bonus was just weird. So at some point in SOD, I believe it was in phase 3, they changed that to be all damage instead. Just increases all damage that you deal by 10%. So that way balanced druids, and this was like necessary for Omen of Clarity also, which is very important for all druids essentially, but very important for balance as well. So it was weird that you had to put 5 talent points into increasing your physical damage by 10%, so that then you could get this other spell. It basically meant that Omen of Clarity was a 6-cost talent, which was weird. So they changed that to be something that increases all of your damage by 10% instead of just your physical damage, and then balanced around that otherwise. Right. Those are the sorts of changes that I'm absolutely in favor of. I think there are cases where classic talent design was just weird, and there were some just strange choices made with how those talent trees were put together all back in the day. Same with classes. There are just some strange choices, like why isn't Tangling Roots only usable outdoors? It feels like...
I'm going to let Staysafe answer this one.
That's fucking based. Hold up, listen, no, disconnect here, disconnect. That's what makes the game immersive.
Yep.
Exactly that point is what makes the game immersive. It's what gives the game soul. It's what harkens back to the old Dungeons and Dragons design philosophy. If you want to use Entangling Roots, you need to be outdoors. That makes total sense. You're fighting a fire elemental, and that means you can't light it up with Immolate or Pyroblast. That makes sense. That's good. We like that. We like that. I want more of that. Double down on it. Double down on it. Let's go.
Flavor, but it's flavor that isn't fun.
It doesn't matter if it's fun. And that's the part that... Look, yeah, games should be accessible, and they should be fun, but they have to make sense. Melderon, it's a fantasy game. I understand it's a fantasy game. There are rules in Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, Classic WoW is a Dungeons and Dragons simulator. That's why it's fucking good. It is a Dungeons and Dragons simulator with a slightly different rulebook and a different lore perspective, but that's why it's good. Because it's a true RPG. It's a simulated tabletop game. And there are rules to certain things. You can't use Ghost Wolf outside. You might be like, why the fuck can't you use Ghost Wolf outside? What changes a shaman's perspective by, why can't they shapeshift inside of a dungeon? It's just the way it is, right? And these limitations pose a very interesting game mechanic, and it makes you immersed into the game, and it makes you immersed into your character. I'm a shaman. I am a discipline of the elements, and I have to be near those elements in order to do these certain things. I need to be in the wild, right? I'm a druid. I can only use Entangling Roots where there are trees. And yes, I know what you're going to say. Dire Maul has trees in it, and certain dungeons have trees in it. But it's hard to say, yeah, you can use it here and you can't in another from a game perspective. If they change that would be okay to me, actually. Yeah, you can use Entangling Roots in Dire Maul. Fine. It's an outdoor-ish dungeon. But then you got to turn it off when you go into the buildings. So there's things you have to do, right? That's a very hard... Now you made that, line, that support vector machine line, go like this, right? So it's like you got to take the good with the bad.
To me,
make it so you can only use Moonfire at nighttime. Make it so you can only use Sunfire during the day. More. Come on, give us more. More of that.
Yeah,
Let's
that
go.
is cool shit.
Let's go. Like inside of a place. It is crazy to me that a druid cannot use entangling roots inside of Razor Fen Crawl, where there's roots everywhere. Like that's just funny to me. Like, there's roots all over the place, but there's no roots here. You can't do this spell. So those sorts of changes are the sorts of things that I'm absolutely in favor of. The terms slight or minor tend to be pretty subjective. What one player considers to be a slight or minor change, another player may consider to be a major change. So I think no matter what, when it comes to class changes, it will come down to less of a question of like, are you okay with class changes, yes or no? And more of a question of, are you okay with this specific class change and done on a case-by-case basis? That's just sort of how I feel about class changes in Classic in general. I'm okay with some that are just quality of life, essentially, or just fixing things up a little bit. But I would want to steer away from things that change the way the class plays in any substantial category. We're going to do the next couple together as well. This is returning player re-entry feature, which would be providing an easy onboarding.
Provide an easy onboarding experience for players returning.
No.
New player experience. Provide an easy onboarding experience.
When you add these things in, you limit interaction with players. Okay? If you spoon feed new players this dumb bullshit, like you're the savior of Azeroth and blah, 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 blah. I know that's not what they're going to do, but what you're doing is limiting players discussing with things with each other and grouping up. That's what this stuff does. And it's bad from a game ecosystem perspective. Just throw people into the world, and that's it. No one's saying like, well, I don't know how to accept quests. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, come on. Like, this game is not that hard. And again, you're hurting group potential by doing stuff like this.
Experience for new players. Okay, hold up. I want to make a note here. Okay. And
the comments are hysterical in this chat.
So, I've got this listed down. Both of these are immediate L's. 100%. So, what type of things would fall under this category? Maybe level 58 level boost. Maybe you can buy a level boost. Okay, so some type of level boost that you can purchase.
Absolutely.
Do we want that? No. Do we want XP increases? If you're a new player, you get a 50% XP increase.
No.
No. Do we want heirloom gear or anything related to heirloom gear? No. Do we want Recruit a Friend in Classic WoW, which rewards an XP boost?
Nope.
No. No. Because I think
leveling
any sort of catch-up mechanic, any sort of XP leveling boost, any sort of boost you can purchase on the in-game store, what's the implicit message here? What is the message you are sending a new player?
Leveling doesn't mean shit.
The message is the leveling experience doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. We are willing to let you speed through it because it doesn't matter a whole lot. It's just a road. It's nothing more than a roadblock, a time sink roadblock, preventing you from playing at endgame. And so, rather than just throwing our hands up out of despair and saying, you know, the leveling experience doesn't matter if you're a new player, so we're going to let them breeze through it. It's inconsequential. First off, I disagree. I do think the leveling experience matters and is fun and is important and is a huge part of the game.
Yep.
I mean, I could give a 1 hour long seminar on why I think it's important. But let's go the other way. Let's try to make the leveling experience even more important. Let's not devalue it by adding boosts and catch-up mechanics. Let's make it more important and more fun. Okay, yes. Let's add new leveling content. Let's add leveling content that people want to do. Let's have new fun leveling zones, new fun leveling quest lines. Let's have new fun leveling dungeons. Let's double down on leveling.
Agreed.
Because it's the leveling and the world immersion that is attached to the leveling process that keeps people coming back. People love it. Okay, let's double down on it.
Experience for
not
players,
incursions, not fucking incursions.
Player experience, which provides an easy onboarding experience for new players. So the concept of someone coming back to Classic, it's not clear what they're saying coming back to Classic from. Like, is this a returning player who played Cataclysm back in...
It's irrelevant. It's all stupid.
In, what was that, 2009, 2010, whenever Cataclysm came out, and now is coming back to Cataclysm Classic in this day and age? Are we talking about someone who is playing Dragonflight right now, and they're, quote-unquote, returning to Classic era? There's a lot that is kind of open-ended about that question. And the same for a new player experience. Like, is it a new player just to Season of Discovery? Is it a new player just to the concept of Classic? Or is it a new player to World of Warcraft entirely? Is it a new player to MMOs entirely? There's a lot of like different ways that this can be taken, but I think my answer to this is pretty much the.
What do you think about having a chaperone like they have in games like Escape from Tarkov, where new players can play with experienced players who want to help? No, terrible. Like, first off, how would you even implement that? You'd have to have some sort of queue or system or something. No, the game does not need.
Players that are new to the game should be engaging with low-level players. Whether they're good or bad, that should be irrelevant. They're gonna come across people that are assholes to them, but they're gonna come across people that are nice to them. And they have to know that the world is full of assholes and nice people and people in between. That's how you get initiated into the game, and that's how it should always remain.
More systems, no.
The same either way.
No.
There are.
Also, I think like generally that just kind of that dynamic happens naturally often enough that I think you don't need to worry about it. In Classic WoW, the world, the game, the leveling process necessitates you grouping up with other players for elite quests.
Absolutely.
Or dungeons or whatever you're questing in a zone. And oftentimes you're grouping up with someone that is not playing the game for the first time. You might be playing the game for the first time, but your teammate or your group mate might not be. You have guilds. You're forming relationships in guilds, right? And so
Blizzard has to stop being a helicopter parent. They have to let shit just go. Let it go. Let it happen the way it's supposed to happen. And that is the best filter for what makes a classic player a classic player.
Like I said, let's try to make the things that are in-game, those social things, let's try to make them better. Let's make that world immersion better. Let's make the degree to which people are interacting with each other a better experience. Let's try to grease that, like grease up the things in the game so they operate better rather than adding new systems or taking systems. I don't know. No, I don't think so.
I would be very, very cautious about any of this, and I wouldn't want anything to be done that changes in any substantial way any of the existing like entry-level content.
You know, that being said, I did play. Okay, so I played Final Fantasy a couple years ago for about a month. What would you think about a classic WoW green leaf system? Or it's called a sprout, I think, in Final Fantasy XIV. If it's your first time playing on a new account, you have a little sprout or some icon next to your name so that other people know, hey, this guy's kind of new. I'm going to help them. I'm going to give them a little second chance.
It sounds very weak.
That is kind of like...
And I think it's an overall negative because it's probably going to make people not want to group with you.
It's a little bit gibby-gobby. I get it. It's a little gibby-gobby. It is. I get how it's kind of lame. I think there is some. I think there's some gameplay value to it, though. I do think so.
I don't think so. I think it's going to do the opposite of what you think it's going to do.
Even in Season of Discovery, to be honest. I wouldn't want them to go through and redo all of the starting zones, as an example. So there's two concepts I can see for a way that this could work that would be beneficial and would be things that I'd be okay with. There's a heavy-handed approach and a much more lighter touch approach. The lighter touch approach would just literally be updating some of the quest text in those early zones, saying things like for example, you're picking cactus apples inside the Valley of Trials. Have a bit in the quest text that says, look for cactus apples around and right-click on them to collect them. Like,
no. If someone doesn't know they have to right-click something, that's crazy. Okay? Now, if you're saying add sparkles to the cactus apples, maybe. Okay? That's not going to hurt anyone. But if you're saying in the quest text, which is supposed to be the text that the quest giver is talking to you, the NPC doesn't know it's in a game. Okay? It's immersion breaking, and it's honestly insulting people's intelligence. If you want to add a sparkle to the cactus apples, that's fine. Anything more than that, it's immersion breaking.
Like just little things that give you more of a direct understanding of
No. Listen, if you I actually think that dumbing down the game to that degree, it's not good, right? I think people learn lessons by struggling a little bit and kind of banging their head against the wall until they have that breakthrough moment. Oh, that's what a cactus apple is. Oh, I'm going to sit here. Do I press E to pick it up?
Because it tells you in the game there is stuff that's not overtly known that thing is interactable with. Like, and everyone knows this by now, but like the notice boards outside of certain inns that have quests attached to them. There's nothing that says there's a quest there. If you never knew that cactus apples were interactable without the game explicitly telling you, You're definitely not going to know that those wanted posters are interactable.
Do I left click it to pick it up? I right click it to pick it up? I think people learn lessons if they have a little bit of trial and error. They experiment with it rather than sitting here and reading a dialogue, right? Or reading through the quest text. I think just let people play. Like, people are smarter than you think they are, which is almost impossible to hear me say. But really, I think people can figure things out. I think people can figure this stuff out.
Exactly what you need to do. Similar for like the quest that you get that sends you to your class trainer for the first time. Put some text in there that says things like, once you're at your class trainer, here's how it works. Here's how you get new spells. Here's how spell ranks work and stuff like that.
No,
and put all that information inside of those quests. So at the very least, the player can then, if they're brand new to World of Warcraft, they're brand new to Classic. Maybe they played World of Warcraft post Mists of Pandaria, but they've never experienced spell ranks before. They never experienced having to purchase your spells before.
That's
giving
part
something
of this
that
process.
gives them a little bit of a thing, and then maybe putting that information. If you go back to your class trainer, give them some dialogue options that explain a bunch of this stuff as well. Those sorts of things I think would be fine. That would be a much more lighter touch approach. It's literally just giving a little bit more of a tutorialization text to the quests that already exist that are meant to be something of a tutorial.
That's pointless.
The heavy-handed approach that I could see for something like this, if they wanted to go as far as being like, all right, we're going to do the classic version of Exile's Reach. We're going to do the classic version of you're going to make a character and you are going to go through a heavily tutorialized start-to-finish experience that handholds you the whole way through and tells you everything that you're going to do and so on. If they wanted to go as far as putting you on an island somewhere and just straight up holding your hand all the way through how to do things in World of Warcraft, I could see that working, but with one very important caveat.
Let me ask. Okay, yeah, this is something they could do. Why, though? Why would we do this? Who needs this?
No one.
Why are we talking about addressing problems that don't exist? Right?
Agreed.
Has anyone ever said, man, yeah, I tried to make a level 1 human, I just couldn't figure out. There was a guy standing next to me, and he had a yellow exclamation point over his head, and I couldn't figure out how to interact with him. I just could not figure out how to interact with him. And then finally, after a half hour, I realized I have to hit my right-click button to talk to him. And then I accepted this quest, and I had to go pick up 8 wolf meat. How do I do that? No one. This is not a problem. This is not an issue. So I don't like.
And it never has been.
We're just. This is actually the exact.
All Blizzard's trying to do here, by the way, guys, is trying to find ways to add fucking money-grabbing bullshit into the game. They don't give a fuck about new players. They care about monetizing people. Don't let this seem like some type of, like, holier-than-thou, we care about new players bullshit, because it's not.
Exact problem that modern games have. You have game developers that spend time, and you've got very limited mental energy, and also time in the day, trying to solve problems that don't actually exist. They're trying to over-engineer the product, okay? And it's a waste of time. This is not an issue, not a problem. OGBRC1 with the 15 months, 20 months. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That I don't think that character should continue to exist beyond that tutorial.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think if you're going to make this tutorialized experience, it should be a one-off character that never really even exists in the first place.
It's not needed,
If you go so far as to say if you log off in the middle of it, maybe you have to start the whole thing over again. I don't know. There's probably ways to save that concept, but I don't think this should then be a character that exists on your character select screen. I would be okay with this in the sense of like, okay, here is a straight-up tutorial experience that's going to teach you how to play this video game, and then after you're done with this, then you get to go and make your character and start from level 1 with 0 experience points and go up from there. I think could work. That would be pretty cool, actually. And I think a lot of MMOs would benefit from something like that as like before you even choose your class.
So this is just like completely non-issue. This is just not an issue.
Here, understand what this is. And that would also give them the opportunity to be like, okay, we're going to give you, we're going to let you try out what a few different classes feel like just by changing your character and changing the spells you have.
They have no abilities.
Now you have like Corruption and Shadow Bolt. Experience what it's like to be a Warlock for a second.
Okay,
that's what Warlock is. Now let's give you,
until later
I don't know,
in the game.
Smite and Holy Fire. Now you're a Holy Priest that's DPS for some reason. I don't know why those were the examples that came to mind.
This is crazy.
Let's give you Flash Heal and Renew. Now you understand what it is to be a healing priest. Let's give you Revenge and...
Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay, I get it. I get it.
That sort of thing that would allow you to get a taste of what the different gameplay elements are like and get a little bit of an idea of what the gameplay is like before then going into, okay, you've completed this tutorial experience. We've given you the information you need to make an informed decision about what class you want to play. And then you get to start your journey.
You don't get this in D&D. Why would you get it in World of Warcraft? Just stop.
me as a player. I think that as an optional thing that is probably presented to players primarily who don't have a character already, that would be cool. That would be a great idea for Classic, especially because
so what we're saying is like pretty much that we need a tutorial for the tutorial. Elwyn Forest is the tutorial.
Yes.
Northshire Valley is the tutorial. The Valley of Strength is the tutorial. That is the tutorial. We don't need a tutorial for the tutorial.
Alliance, Andy.
Again, there's a lot of things that exist in Classic that are very old and outdated.
He's just saying we need to turn Classic into retail.
Concepts,
yeah, pretty much.
Things like spell ranks exist. Things like having to go to your trainer to train your spells. Things like the way that respecs work and so on. Those are things that only really exist inside Classic and haven't been a thing in the modern game for a long time.
We get it.
I think something like that would be good. I really feel very strongly that that should not be something where the character that you're going through this tutorial experience with is your character. It should be something that you're like, okay, I would like to do the tutorial. You don't make a character. I would like to do the tutorial. Maybe you pick like a race and like model type to go through the tutorial with, but that's it. And you go through and it's like, okay, here's your stuff and blah, blah, blah. You're done.
Okay.
That I think would work. But again, I probably, that sounds like a lot of work. That sounds like a lot of like technical stuff to try to get done right. The much lighter touch approach is the more practical way to do this, where it's just literally add some dialogue
waste of depth
so you have the option to read about how
don't even do that. Don't even do that.
Don't do that. Few quests. That would work as well.
It's not worth the trees. It's not worth the energy that the computers have to use to build this.
Do that.
What I don't want is let's overhaul all of the starting zones to make them a more tutorialized experience, because that content, I feel very strongly that that content should continue to exist
He's still
the way that it does. We're going to kind of like...
Okay, I have a 3-year-old daughter. He is trying to solve problems for people playing World of Warcraft that my 3-year-old daughter could solve on her own.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking... My 3-year-old daughter can figure out how to left-click or right-click an NPC to pick up the quest or to whatever, right? She knows she can right-click to loot something off of a mob. She can right-click a apple cactus. She could do that. She could totally do that. She could figure it out. And so it's like I just do not. If I know a 3-year-old can do it, we do not need this. We don't need this in a game that fucking 30-year-old men are playing. We don't need this.
Again, this is
lightning around the next few of these because I just don't have a lot to say on most of them. The next one is new group events and rewards. It just says new group events or scenario.
By the way, political news in 45.
So this is like things like Darkmoon Faire, expanding the Darkmoon Faire, adding stuff like the Darkmoon Faire. This is what I think this is. I don't know what they meant by this, but yeah, sure, why not? Make the game more livable, make the game more alive, add more fun stuff. This is a no-brainer.
Minutes, and we're going to have we have a lot of political stuff to talk about today, by the way.
Areas with unique rewards. Okay, cool. New group events or rewards. That is such a broad topic that, sure, yeah, if I'm okay with new dungeons and raids, then how could I not be okay with new group events and rewards? Now, you can infer from...
Hold up, I missed that pop-up. This right here. I want to write this down. New group events and rewards. Hopefully this is stuff that is in the world events. So I'm thinking things like smaller, more accessible world bosses.
That'd be cool.
Things like the Gurabashi Arena.
That'd be
things
cool.
like the STV fishing event.
Yeah.
Those things. We like that. Okay? More cool things like the Darkmoon Faire. Okay? We like that stuff. It's cool. All right? New group events and rewards. Okay.
Just don't add more world buffs,
please. New group events or scenarios with unique rewards. Okay, cool. New group events or rewards. That is such a broad topic that, sure, yeah, if I'm okay with new dungeons and raids, then how could I not be okay with new group events and rewards? Now, you can infer from the fact that this is listed separately that they're probably talking about things like what they've done in SOD with like the incursions and so on. They're probably talking about stuff like that. I don't have a problem with it. To me, if you're okay with new dungeons, you should be okay.
Incursions are terrible, by the way, from what I've heard. I think Staysafe's going to riff on this now.
Not incursions. Not incursions. So earlier in the video, we talked about how one of the highlights of World of Warcraft, Vanilla WoW, Classic WoW, is the world immersion. Getting out in the world and how formative that leveling process is, how formative the world is.
Preach, brother.
You see other players, you interact with them, you die, whatever, okay? The world is the content of this game. What did incursions do? Incursions got you out of the world. They corralled you into a very small, what is effectively an instance, right? Or a phased off zone. running in circles doing the same thing over and over again for hours on end. And why did you do it? Because Blizzard had the bright idea to make that the best XP in the game and the best leveling gold in the game.
Oh,
so not only is it terrible content that removes you from the world, and the world is the highlight. They got you out of the world running circles for hours, but also they made it the most rewarding thing in the entire game.
So dumb.
Absolute travesty. Terrible content. Like, seriously, whoever... Incursions are so off base. They are so monumentally bad. It is like... It's hard for me to believe that you had the entire Classic dev team sitting around a table. They're at like a board table, or like a meeting room table, and they're having a meeting about how SOD Phase 3 should go. And one of them has the idea, hey, what about incursions? And this is what it's going to look like. And that 14 or 15 other people sat there, heard the idea, and said, yeah, that's a good idea. And then they spent 2 or 3 months actually designing it and implementing it and coding it and scripting it and play testing it, presumably, I would hope. And then they actually did it, and they did it, and then they shipped it.
Jesus Christ.
It's like there are so many layers of how the fuck did this happen?
Because no one cares.
Who had the idea?
No one
Why
plays
did
the
15
game.
other people sign off on it? And then they spent 3 months actually making it, and then they put it live, and then they had us playing it. How did this happen? This is like so obviously the stupidest fucking content of all time. And they did it. And they did it anyway. So no, we don't want incursions. No. Very clearly we do not want incursions. No, we do not.
With new group events as well, so that should be fine. Ongoing class tuning and polish, which they defined as continuously refining the various classes through player feedback and in-game data. I'm a no on...
Hold up. What did that say? Ongoing class tuning and polish.
So this is a bad precedent, because what it does is it says that we're going to do stuff that's so egregious that we need to tune things. If you add the stuff that Turtle WoW did, you don't need this, right? This is something that is scary because it tells them, go crazy with class changes, and then we'll worry about the fucking fallout after everyone's left the game and is pissed off that it's not classic vanilla. This is a stupid, stupid question and should not be asked because it opens the door for bullshit. You don't fuck with classes enough that should ever be a problem.
Okay, so Classic Plus launches, and they have made some small, tasteful class changes. Okay, Shadow Priests do a little bit more damage and have a little bit more mana regen. Boomkins, a little bit more damage, a little bit more mana regen. Warlocks can play the Affliction spec now. You know, Red Paladins, maybe they have Heroic Strike or Crusader Strike. Okay, so tasteful, maybe Prot Paladins have a Taunt ability. So tasteful class changes, and it launches with that stuff from day one. But then 2 months later, people are raiding, and the Warcraft log numbers start coming in, and we're taking a look at Warcraft logs, and it turns out that there's a big disparity between Red Paladins and Warlocks, or whatever, it doesn't matter. Should they rebalance that stuff as the game is live? Should they continue to do rebalancing and tuning as the game is live, or whatever it is from day one, it's locked in, and that's what it is? And the chat, little bit of I think most people are saying no. I think if they're going to do these tasteful class rebalancings, have a PTR, talk to the community, get people involved. I'm going to rail on Blizzard here again. I feel like I can't not do it. I'm going to rail on Blizzard.
How could you not?
Let's talk about the success of old school RuneScape here for a minute.
Yeah.
What is the approach of Jagex with making new content for old school RuneScape? They parse out the forums, they look at the forums, they look at community feedback, and they pluck out good ideas. And then internally, they put together a list of good ideas and put together sort of like a comprehensive, hey, we've seen you guys on the forums talking about a new skill, sailing, that you guys want. So we've sort of mocked up a blueprint for what sailing might look like based off of some of the stuff you guys have said on the forums. And now we are presenting it to you, and this is what it looks like. If you guys vote in a hyper majority, if 80% of you guys vote yes, then we will continue to pursue this and we will develop sailing. And also, if you vote for it and we continue developing the new skill that you voted for in a hyper majority, community feedback, you guys gave us the green light, As we develop it, we will have further community contact, and we'll take feedback. We're going to have dev talks. We're going to have live Q&As as we spend the next year or 18 months making this piece of content that you guys have given us the green light. Okay, so it is maximum transparency, maximum community involvement, maximum community feedback. And guess what? That has worked really fucking well. For OSRS,
really well.
It's worked well. OSRS came out 13 years ago.
It's sanity and it's care. It shows those two things, which Blizzard has not shown.
In January of 2013, and the game is growing for 13 years. The game is more popular than ever. The game is hitting all-time peaks 13 years later.
Yep.
After 13 years of new content that they have made with the permission, with the green light of the player base, the game is better than ever. Surprise that. Now let's look at the way that Blizzard is handling Season of Discovery. No PTR, no communication. It's a mystery. We don't want you guys.
To be fair, I was on board with the no PTR because of what they were doing. Turned out to be a bad mistake. And I talked about having no PTR for my multiverse idea, and I'm actually going to go back on that. Is that I think if they're going to do the type of community engagement that Staysafe's talking about, I think a PTR is necessary and needed. And I think for Classic Plus, the changes should be given ahead of time so people know what they are, so we can discuss them as a community.
Guys to even know what the content is. There's no PTR. Every new phase of Season of Discovery, it's going to be a mystery box. You have no idea what you get. We're not going to give you any teases or hints or spoilers. We're going to shut down data mining. No one has any idea what it's going to be. And surprise, every single phase of Season of Discovery has launched with colossal bugs and fuck-ups or terrible pieces of content like incursions, like the nether portals, okay, like the event in fucking Searing Gorge right now that no one likes, etc., etc., etc. But it's so mysterious you need to discover it. Maybe that's not a good formula.
Yeah.
Maybe this brain-dead poop shit for brain idea you had about it's all going to be secret content and the community doesn't get to know. Not only is there no community feedback, the community doesn't even know what it is until launch day. And guess what? It's been catastrophic. So yeah, so I'm a little bit anyway. It's like they looked at the success of OSRS and said, you know what?
We're going to do the exact
opposite.
Yeah.
We're going to do the exact opposite.
Why would you do that?
And guess what?
Do you want to make money, Blizzard? Do you want to have more people playing the game? Just copy what they did. It works. It's a tried and true system. Like, it's almost mind-boggling how dumb they can be sometimes.
It's been a fucking nightmare. It's been a travesty. Is what it's been.
Player feedback and in-game data. I'm a no on this one to an extent. I think there's some need for... Let me rephrase this, actually. I'm a no for making this a permanent fixture in someone's work schedule. I would not want it to be the case that there is someone whose job is, on a weekly basis, what you have to do is tune classes. Because that leads into someone who is now tuning classes just for the sake of tuning classes, because that's their job. I think this is the sort of thing that if they were to assign it to someone who is maybe on the class or rune or whatever design team, and they're part of that group that's working on that aspect of the game in Classic, but it's not something that they need to be necessarily checking off of their to-do list every week, that's fine. Excuse me. Looking at things where it's like, okay, it turns out that warriors are the only DPS anyone ever wants to play because they're the ones that do the most damage, and there's no reason to ever bring any DPS other than a warrior unless you need their specific buffs or whatever. Like you got a shaman for Wind Fury Totem, and then 4 warriors. And then
I want to talk about this because this is important. Number one is the hybrid tax is a real thing. I know a lot of people don't like this, but the fact that a paladin can't top the DPS charts is design. There are hybrids. There's a hybrid tax associated with that. We talked about this many years ago. This is very important. If everyone does 10% more damage and has world buffs, what does that do? What does it do? It makes the easy content even more easy. So I'm not saying that classes shouldn't be buffed. I'm not saying that Paladins shouldn't get Crusader Strike. I'm not saying that tanks, non-warrior tanks shouldn't get some type of help. But what I am saying is that every time you add damage or capability to a class, it affects the content. Now, we memed around about how easy Classic is, but you don't want to make it to the point where it's laughable for every piece of content. Now, this is a very hard equation you have to figure out. This is not something easy. But if Shadow Priests get 10% damage buff, Red Paladins get a 10% damage buff, Hunters get a 10% damage buff, now that boss is going down even faster, especially with world buffs, and that's a non-linear probably relationship. So, I'm not saying tune bosses. I'm just saying you have to be aware of all this stuff. You have to be aware that there's a cost associated with benefiting every class in the game. And that has to be taken into account. Has to be.
The group. That sort of level of stuff, like that to me is something where it's like, okay, yeah, it's fine to look at that and say, let's do some tuning changes. Again, not in the original Classic era. That should stay untouched. But it's fine to me in the concept of a Classic Plus to want to do some tuning changes so that other classes have the opportunity to ever really get played in that sense. That's the sort of stuff that I think is fine. When there's extreme outliers, yes, step in and make some tuning changes for that effect. But I don't think that they should go as far as saying on a weekly basis, let's just make sure that we're constantly refining things and we're constantly adjusting things and making tuning changes every single week for Classic. And the reason that I say that is because eventually it just leads to the point of making changes for the sake of it was this person's job to make some changes. It eventually leads to a point where you're constantly adjusting things because you feel like you need to be constantly adjusting things because that is on your list of tasks to check off for the week. Did I make some tuning changes to improve?
I'm a huge proponent of the Jagex approach. I really am. If there are going to be class changes or tuning changes after the game has already gone live, you have the community involved. You let people vote for it. You need a hyper majority, right? And you actually explain the methodology. You explain the logic. You talk to people about it. And you let the people decide.
Class balance overall. And I don't think it should ever get to that point. I think.
And this is why people like me say leave the game alone. It's not because I'm a fucking brain dead nostalgia dad, guys. It's because everything you do, there's a unseen effect that does not seem apparent right away. Reducing the hybrid tax will have effects on endgame PvE and PvP. And you don't know what that is until it comes out. Now, I said they should roll out class changes and not change a goddamn thing. But that was under the model that Blizzard was going to be doing everything. If we had an actual Jagex type community and involvement, I'd be okay with it. The problem is no one talks to us from Blizzard. And that's the issue. So if, Molten Core gets released and we find out that Ragnaros dies in 10 seconds, that's something the community has to complain about, and then they're going to have to do something about that. But the TLDR is that everything you do has consequences.
I think it's fine for there to be some little changes that are made here and there, or some changes that are made to, like, just for the overall health.
Stay safe, bro. You realize Blizzard will never do what Jagex has done. They are way too retarded. I don't think they're retarded. I think there's an ego problem. Dude, you guys are getting totally mask off Stay Safe these days because you know what it is? Having success on Twitch in another realm, doing the politics stuff, maybe I'm feeling a little bit more liberated to kind of like speak my mind about the World of Warcraft Blizzard situation. I'm liberated, my shackles are free, and I can just speak freely. I think the classic dev team has a big fucking ego problem. I think the reason why they don't talk to the community or involve the community in the development decisions, the reason why they keep everything secret and they want to put together this grand riddle of a piece of content, the grand discovery, they've got to... I think it's because they think their ideas are better than yours.
Damn, bro.
Okay? They don't value your feedback. They don't value the vote or the will of the community. In 2017, when Classic WoW got announced, it was sold to us as a love letter to the community. And now, 6, 7 years later, we have Season of Discovery. There is zero community feedback. What started as a love letter to the community, none of us are even on board with the direction in which the game is evolving.
Yeah, man.
There's zero community feedback. And they can say, oh, well, we read the forums or we whatever. You have a template you can copy that equals guaranteed success. It's called Old School RuneScape.
Yes.
If you can put the ego aside and do what Jagex has done with Old School RuneScape, the game will be better. The game will be better. Because it seems to me, at this point, the Classic dev team doesn't even really know why people play Classic WoW. And the reason I say that is because they have added terrible content after terrible content after terrible content for the last 9 months in Season of Discovery. Sometimes they get it right. Most often they get it wrong. Okay? So why do they sometimes get it right with the new content they're making, but more often than not, they get it wrong? They make bad content. It's because they have no idea why people like the game. If they knew why people like this game, we wouldn't have gotten incursions, for instance, right? So, anyway, Jagex route. Kill the ego, go the Jagex route. Get the people involved.
Make sure that there are the options.
You're not Kevin Jordan. You never will be. It's just the way it is, man.
For other classes to be played. That's good stuff. But I don't think they should ever be aiming for perfect balance inside the classic archetype. I said that we were going to lightning round these, and then I immediately talked at length about class tuning and polish. I kind of forgot that I had so much to say about that one, but we're going to go through a couple more of them here. Guild Bank, introducing a Guild Bank feature to Classic Era. Yes, just do. I literally see zero downsides to introducing a Guild Bank.
Guild Bank, yes or no? Guild Bank, yes or no? I think yes. That's a good change. I think
it literally saves somebody from logging onto an alt, and it also saves people from feeling like they should multi-box to be able to access said alt, or not multi-box, account share, to be able to access said vault. So just put the Guild Bank in. I don't see any downside to it. The collection UI, introducing a collections user interface feature to access mounts, toys, and companions to Classic Era. Again, I don't...
I mean, it'd be nicer if your mount...
This is something that I really like. I like completionism content. See, I like collection content.
So I'm going to divert.
That's something that I personally like. Now, just because I personally like it does not mean that I think it should necessarily be in the game. I can look beyond my own personal preferences. So I think it would be cool to have a collection UI, and then they can add pets and mounts to whatever, and then I can go farm them. I like to do that. Does that mean it's a good fit for Classic WoW?
Let me say this again. This is a monetization strategy question. This is not a question about caring about whether you care that your mount takes up a bag space in your inventory. This is a question about, can we feed you bullshit monetization? That's what this is. Just so you guys know.
I think maybe not. I think maybe not. This is another thing that I would let people vote on. I would let people vote on this.
Yeah. Companions to Classic Era. Yeah. Again, I don't see any downsides to this at all. Not having your mount sitting in your inventory, not having your favorite pet sitting in your inventory makes those things much more accessible. There's possibly some questions to ask about this of, if you make it so that pets don't take inventory space, do you then just start seeing a lot of people with pets around them constantly? Like, is that just going to massively increase the number of non-combat pets you're seeing in the world? But I don't think that's a bad thing either. Like, I think that's fine if everyone has their little, like, rat or cockroach or whatever chasing them around. Like, that's fine. Dumb. That's not a problem. So to me, both of those are pretty obvious. Like, yeah, just go ahead and do it. And then dual talent specialization. Again, this one says introducing the ability to switch between 2 talent specializations to Classic Era. I think for Classic Era...
So I have a weird take on this, and I know people hate it, but I'm going to say it anyway, and I'm against this, and here's my reasoning. It's not that I want people to struggle and go back to town and spend a bunch of money to respec. The respec cost should not be 50 gold, by the way. It should be like capping it like 5. And Staysafe will tell you why, and I'll let him, because he does a very good job of explaining that. My issue with it, though, is that it's weird to me that again, it's an immersion lore bullshit thing, but you have a resto druid in your raid, and then he does something and becomes a bear druid. It's very immersion breaking. It doesn't make sense. You should have to go to your class trainer, be around other druids, experience the small amounts of RP that are associated with that, and then respec. I think it makes lazy like dungeon and raid comps, and I think that you don't really need it in most situations anyway. Anyone who's done 4 Horsemen, did you have all your extra tanks show up as prot that night, or Fury prot, or something like that? No, of course not. You just did it, right? So on one end, I think it's unneeded, but on my major thing is I think it's immersion breaking, and I think it's weird, and it doesn't feel like Classic. That's my argument. I know it's probably not what most of you think, but if respec costs were small, which Staysafe is going to talk about now, that alleviates that issue.
I'll read this again. It is curious they specifically mention adding this to Classic Era.
Yeah, well, that's just a typo. Probably. Hopefully.
This is another thing where I need to look beyond my own opinion. I'm really not a big fan of dual talent spec, but I think I'm in the extreme minority.
Yeah.
I would rather them make respecking like 5 gold and just leave it there and not have dual talent spec. Just make it way cheaper. But I think that I am in the extreme minority. So once again, I would put it to a vote. Put it to a vote, see what happens, and I say that knowing that I would probably lose on that one.
For Classic Era, the like archive realm, no, don't do that. Don't touch Classic Era as it exists. Aside from little changes like quality of life changes, I don't consider this to be a quality of life change because I think that dual talent specialization creates a style of gameplay in which you would have someone like a druid, for example. You could have a balanced druid who then swaps to bear, and that's literally part of your raid composition. Is that you have this DPS switches to a tank spec, and like the same could go for a warrior. You have a warrior who's
well, okay. I guess we can have a 5-minute discussion about respecking. So. The reason why the respec cost caps out at 50 gold is because it's meant to serve as a gold sink. And a gold sink is a mechanism in game that removes gold from the game. It combats economic inflation in the game. It deletes gold from the game. Okay, this is an anti-inflationary mechanism.
Yeah.
That's good. You do need those things. What are other gold sinks in Classic WoW? Buying your mount, training your abilities, repairing your gear.
Yep.
These are gold sinks. Now, insofar as respecking 50 gold respec being a gold sink, I think it actually fails. I think it is so expensive that people end up just not
less
respecting.
People respect.
So I'll paint a little scenario here, and you guys tell me if you can relate to this. There have been times where I'm PvP spec on my Warlock, and I raid 3 days from now. And maybe I want to do a dungeon tonight, but it's like I don't want to respec to go do the dungeon, because I need to be PvPing for the next 2 or 3 days. I'm farming honor, so I'm just gonna like not do the dungeon, which is something that I would like to do. My guildies are asking me for help, but like I don't want to respec, so I'm just not gonna do it. Right? Situations like that, and this is even more egregious if you're a paladin or a druid, where maybe you're a DPS spec and you need to respec to heal or tank or something. And then you'd have to respec back. And so the entire thing, respecking here and then respecking back and then respecking back, you know, it adds up to 150 gold or something like that very, very quickly. And I think what ends up happening is rather than people respecking and interacting with the gold sink, removing gold from the game, I think people just don't respec and they end up playing less. That's what I think happens. People say, well, like, man, I would like to do something. It's Sunday night. Maybe I want to do something, but I'm raid spec and like I raid on Tuesdays, so I don't want to respec out and then respec back in. You know, it's like I'm just not going to do something. You know, maybe I'm not even going to log in tonight. Whatever. I'm just going to wait for raid day. And so I think having a very expensive respec, it results in that type of player behavior.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I do think, and this is where we get a little bit esoteric, I guess. I'm not even sure, but I think having the ritual, I want to respec. I need to go to the capital city. I need to go to my class trainer. I need to talk to the class trainer. As I'm going there, I see other people that are my spec. These are my, or that are my class. I go to the warlock place. I see other warlocks.
It's immersion.
I think having that ritual, it's immersive, and I actually like that, and I think that's important. I like that. So I'm not really a big fan of dual spec for those reasons. But I am a fan of drastically reducing. In fact, let me give you an example. I don't have any data to support this, so this is like, hey, what's your source? I made it up. But I would bet money that having a 5 gold respec effectively sinks more gold out of the game than a 50 gold respec.
Yep.
That means I think people respec 10 times more with a 5 gold respec than a 50 gold respec. I think it's easier for people to rationalize. 5 gold respec, it's not that big of a deal. 50 gold respec, oh man, I don't want to do that. I would bet a lot of money, and I don't have the data on that. And in fact, we're never going to have the data. Maybe Blizzard does, but if the purpose is to be a gold sink, I think a cheaper gold sink in this specific case is actually working better.
Fully DPS focused, and then swaps to a full protection spec for 4 horsemen or whatever. And they just
you don't need to be full protection
like that. That adjusts and changes the way you actually approach the content. Having dual talent specialization available. I think for SOD it was a very good addition, and I think for Classic Plus it would be a very good addition. So I'm very much in favor of dual talent spec coming into the game. But I think for Classic Era, the sort of museum realm that I keep referring to it as, I think it changes the way you approach the game too much to include in that sort of thing as a quality of life change. New/future.
So what we used to do was we'd reward players. Say we had this happened very infrequently, but say there was a fight that we needed someone to go respec for, the guild would pay for that. And that is a cool interaction, right? I think with everything you do that removes gold sinks like this, you remove the possibility of interactions in the game that either cause immersion or bonding in the community. And I don't like losing either of those things, even if dual spec makes sense on paper. The Staysafe approach is much better. A 5 gold or 10 gold respec would mean many more people will respec, and it will sink more gold than if you have a 50 gold respec. I am 100% on with this.
Class and race combination. So this is...
We talked about this
so I'm
already.
glad they had this on here. We talked about this earlier.
Not adding new classes or races.
Down.
This is allowing races to be classes that they couldn't be previously. And this one I'm very much in favor of. I honestly, like, in this day and age, I don't see the need for racial restrictions on classes in a pretty general, broad sense. There's probably some races that it just wouldn't make, like an undead druid might be weird from the concept of, like, this is something who is an abomination of life. How are they doing life things? But then again, they can be holy priests, so who knows? And undead is honestly kind of the only real outlier here of something. Like, why would a Tauren mage not exist? If Tauren can be...
Tauren mages don't exist
druids,
for
why
lore
can't they be
reasons.
mages, right? If they can get in touch with this...
They don't have access to that type of knowledge.
So I'm not a big lore guy. I really am not. It's funny because his name is Lore.
Yeah, and he doesn't realize that.
His gamer tag is Lore. I'm not a big lore guy, but
you gotta look back at like the old versions of the game or in books, and if there is a reason for a class race combination there, then it's okay. I think it's okay for orcs to be mages. There are troll warlocks in the game, NPCs. And, you know, the fact that a human can't be a hunter is just stupid. Undead for the same reason, right? So it's got to make sense lore-wise, and I don't think Tauren Mage and Tauren Priest does because they are completely animistic society. And, yeah, so that's why.
I feel like some of the stuff just makes sense, or rather doesn't make sense. I think it makes sense for a Tauren to be a druid, but not a mage. It makes total sense why a Tauren would have an affinity for the natural magic, druidic magic, but not the arcane magic.
Exactly.
Right? I think that does make sense.
Style of magic. Why can't they get in touch with this style of magic? Night Elf mages. Why don't those exist? Dwarven mages existed in the original.
Night Elf mages don't exist for a very big reason in the lore.
And were removed for some reason going into the release of World of Warcraft in 2004. I think a lot of these class and race combinations would be completely and totally fine. I don't see a reason to keep restricting things in such a sense. If you want to be a gnome hunter, sure, go for it. Improved social features. It says implementation of updated...
This is a hot take. I don't think gnomes should be able to be warriors. Debate me in the comments on that one.
Social systems, e.g. global chats, guilds, pre-made groups, etc. This one...
This is a big topic here. Improved.
Yeah, he hates this because of that 1 second delay on the
features.
Thing.
My opinion,
I don't think
the only improved social feature that I would like to have in Classic WoW, and I really would like to have it in Classic WoW.
And I agree with him on this.
I might get crucified here for saying this, but the Wrath of the Lich King pre-made group finder.
Yeah,
I'm not talking random dungeon finder.
Yes.
I'm talking pre-made group finder, where you can list your group and it says you need 2 DPS and a tank, and you can list it. It says we're doing heroic underbog, and then people can sign up for it, and then you can whisper them and invite them, or they can request to join, and then you invite them.
That's totally
and there's
fun.
no teleport. They actually have to travel in-game to where you're trying to go. I think that's a good feature because what it does is it cuts out the LFG Bulletin Board add-on.
Yes.
It's pretty much an integrated in-game version, better version of the LFG
and
Bulletin Board add-on, which everyone uses.
Yeah.
Anyone playing SOD right now uses that add-on. That add-on is shit. I hate it. I hate needing to use LFG Bulletin Board. So just integrate that in the game.
I agree.
And Wrath of the Lich King did that. It's way better. Classic Era too, you're right. Yeah, no, it's an improvement. They should do that.
Global chats, guilds, pre-made groups, etc. This one I'm kind of torn on. Philosophically, I don't have a problem with the idea of making communication easier for players. I don't really have an issue with that. But I also really don't like that SOD now has the modern guild interface in it. And it might just be because it's different. But I don't like it. And
it has a 1 second
delay. It was really
very
jarring to me when I saw that in there. It feels weird to me. And it's a little bit weird too because it like lets you access like Battle.net groups and stuff like that, but you can't actually do anything with those because there's nothing cross realm, there's nothing cross faction in SOD. So that's a little bit weird. I wouldn't.
Chat, I have never heard anyone ever talk about the 1 second delay on guild chat other than us here. Have you guys ever heard anyone else bitch about the 1 second guild chat delay?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's wonky. I don't know why it's
hate
there.
It drives me insane. It drives me fucking insane. I hate it. And then I have people gaslighting on Twitter or on YouTube comments. You just don't like change. Objectively, they don't know what that word means. Objectively, Staysafe, the new UI's better. Objectively. Yeah? You objectively don't know what that word means. And also, even if you did, it's not, because there's a 1 second lag on everything you fucking post in guild chat.
Yeah.
Objectively, I know what the word means. Objectively, it is worse. Objectively, it is worse.
Mind the idea of some of these systems being updated with like actually a new functionality that fits the classic vibe directly. I don't necessarily think pulling modern stuff into classic, it doesn't necessarily directly fit. But I don't know. That's why I'm a little bit torn on this one. I feel like there's some aspects of that stuff that would be good. There's some aspects of that stuff that doesn't really fit the way that classic works. And then things like, obviously, people are going to talk about things like Dungeon Finder. I don't consider that to be a social feature, I guess, but I guess it kind of is in some senses. I don't think Dungeon Finder should ever make its way into classic.
No, of course
I think
not.
having to look for group members is a big part of the classic experience. And whether that's good or bad is almost irrelevant at that point. That's how classic plays, and I think it's important that it stays that way. I would like to see the meeting stones actually become functional and allow you to use those to list yourself as like there was a version. This is why the meeting stones are even clickable in the first place.
It means you have to state the meeting stone.
There was a version where you clicked on that and then you just listed yourself.
Imagine running the Razorfin crawl and then clicking that thing and waiting there. No, I'd much rather talk in either that LFG bulletin board style, rather the Lich King thing, or in trade chat or in world chat. There's no reason for the summoning stones to work that way, nor do I think we should summon players with them. I think they should run to the fucking dungeon like we've been doing for 20 goddamn years.
Saying, yes, I would like to do this, or you'd have a group and you would click on that and you'd list your...
So that was, what he's talking about was in patch like 1.1 and 1.2, and then they got rid of it because the UI was an abomination and no one did it. Now, yeah, it was really shit. If you want to have the summoning stones in Vanilla WoW actually summon people, if you want to be able to summon people at the summoning stone, I think that's fine, actually. And of course, someone's going to say, "Oh, well, you're a warlock." Of course, you're going to say that. Yeah, maybe I have a bias, but
I don't.
I think having summoning stones be functional insofar as they can be used to summon people, I actually don't have a problem with that either.
Yes, I'd have to do this, but you got to actually travel to the meeting stone and click on it in order to find a group for the thing. I wouldn't be opposed to a version of that existing. Heck, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to a version of the pre-made group finder from Modern making its way into a version of Classic either.
Linka Craig says, it makes the world smaller. Craig, I can think of 87 specific examples where you have been AFK in Ironforge, and I have gone to the dungeon, and then other people, and then I have summoned you while you're AFK in Ironforge. So I don't want to hear this makes the world smaller.
I think summoning stones remove flavor from warlocks, and it adds to that like hurry up, get it done mentality, and I don't like that in Classic WoW, and that's another reason why people play Classic WoW is because you have to run to the damn dungeon. Unless there's a warlock in your group, which adds flavor to warlocks and adds them... Because you know what? In almost every circumstance, you'd want a mage over a warlock in a raid. In a dungeon group. However, if you're going to Sunken Temple, and you don't feel like fucking going to Sunken Temple, you may get that warlock in your group and take the somewhat little bit less damage than a mage would provide in the free water and food. So, no, I think it's good. I think it's good the way it is.
Because you're the one AFK in Ironforge 87 times. I've been keeping count, motherfucker.
So many people are using there's an add-on that like basically just aggregates the LFG channel so it's actually readable. So many people are using that already anyway that they might as well just put something in that makes that system less of a let's parse a chat channel constantly sort of thing and just makes it an actual proper system. That sort of thing I would be totally okay with. Again, I don't want random matchmaking to be part of the PvE experience at the very least inside Classic. Which brings us to the last one on the list, which is PvP honor system improvements. It says provide a more granular, real-time PvP.
They already did this, right? As far as I understand, this was already changed. Do we have to change it again?
Honor system with better progress tracking. And when I was talking about this one on stream, when this was first sent to me, the idea that I sort of hit on there was I'm okay with a new honor system being added.
Okay, so I think the Vanilla WoW ranking system overhaul that they introduced 2 years ago onto Classic Era, I think it is fine, where they lower the bracket caps, and there's not no decay, but the decay punishment is super lessened. I think that's fine. Does anyone play Classic Era? I think the new system is fine, but also in the user interface, there are just some like annoying fucking things that would be great if they changed. So, for instance, how does it work? I'm trying to remember now. I don't have it up in front of me. It's like you don't actually know how much honor you farmed until the next day, right? Like you need the daily reset.
Updates would be nice.
I think that's how it is from memory. And so like the way that your progress is tracked on the PvP tab is a little bit clunky and annoying, and it's based off daily resets and stuff. And a lot of people use an add-on to sort of circumvent that lack of functionality or transparency, but ideally you wouldn't need to have an add-on to do that.
Okay, with another layer on top of the existing system being added, something that's separate from that but still progresses through PvP. I think having something where you earn honor points or some other currency that then can go towards buying your gear and so on, instead of having that purely be based on your rank, I think I'd be okay with that. But I think the rank stuff needs to continue to exist, and it needs to continue to exist in the way that it currently does. I would want someone who has the Grand Marshal title or whatever. That should be an indicator of, yes, this person has spent a lot of time just engaged in PvP and earning honor kills, and they've put the effort into earning this, and that can stay the same way that it is right now.
Moltar,
that doesn't need to be tied to PvP progression in the sense of gearing and so on.
Thank you very much.
So yes, add some sort of granular real-time PvP honor system, but don't necessarily change how that works for
you can make it real time, and
that's now, it's also possible, as I'm reading it, it's also possible I'm misreading and misinterpreting what they're talking about with this system. It might be that they're talking about, instead of having the ranks be something that's calculated weekly, instead have this be something that's like, okay, here is how far you made it towards the next rank, and have it be something that you can actually see your progress on a more regular basis, and maybe updates on a more regular basis, so you don't have to wait a week to find out if you got your promotion or not.
I think having the weekly promotions is fine. The problem is that the tracking for your progress is not so transparent. I think that's kind of annoying.
That I would also be okay with in a sense. I just think that the way that ranking works in Classic should stay relatively close to how it worked back in 2004. And I should add to that, I know that there's already been a bunch of changes to specifically how it works that have been made, and a lot of that is just quality of life stuff, so that you don't have to literally be playing 24/7 to get the higher ranks. That's all fine. Like that's all. Those are all good changes that have been implemented. I just would still prefer the rank that you have and the title that you receive to be something that is pretty closely tied to the amount of PvP that you're doing, and not have that like on a regular basis. Maybe have it be something that you can eventually lose. I don't know. There's different ways that this could be implemented. Maybe actually don't make it something you could eventually lose. I don't know. I'm just spitballing a little bit here, but
get rid of DHKs. Ooh. Why do DHKs exist in the game? The reason why DHKs, dishonorable kills, which you get if you kill a civilian NPC, is because Blizzard did not want level 60 players camping low-level towns. I feel like the type of person that ends up camping low-level towns, they really don't care about DHKs. It's like those sort of people.
You'll get more people like
if you're a Red Ridge griefer, you don't care about DHKs. It doesn't matter. You don't care. It's of no consequence. And so I feel like DHKs just end up being kind of fucking annoying. They're just annoying.
If you're in a raid
because
group,
if you are someone that does care, maybe you do want to go out and have some world PvP, and I don't know, accidents happen. You're in a raid group and you've got a dumb fuck in your raid group, and he accidentally kills the target that you shouldn't kill, and then you're fucked for the week. And yeah, it is. I think DHKs take more away from the game than they end up adding.
Maybe.
I think so. I think they're a net
I'm
negative.
kind of ambivalent.
Overall, I'm definitely in favor of the concept of PvP honor system improvements. I just don't know that it's necessarily a good idea for them to completely throw out what already exists and replace it with something new, versus letting the existing system continue to be the way that it is for things like titles, and then making something new that is as a side to that, that works for things like collecting gear. Anyway, that's all of the things that were on the list that I was sent. And I think there's a lot to think about here. There's a lot of stuff that, especially when you start to consider.
Okay, so once again, this is allegedly, I'll give you the background if you're tuning in. A viewer of his sent him screenshots from the...
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the Kargoz video in a second, but I just want to say that Staysafe had a lot of good takes. I'm sorry that lore is so verbose. Probably should have been a lot shorter of a video. But, I think it's important to us to go through it and find out exactly what everyone's thoughts are on this, because it's good to gauge the community. So now we're going to move on to Kargoz' short video. Very, very short.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another classic WoW
Kargoz
video.
with the pink
My
tank
name is
top.
Kargoz, and today I'm going to just, off the top of the head, discuss some of the things. If Blizzard is to do a Classic Plus, and if they were to make changes to Vanilla WoW, what me personally would like to see from that, and what would make me compelled to actually want to play that over just regular 1x Vanilla. So here we go. That's my first point right out of the gate. Regular 1x Vanilla WoW, in all of its imperfectly perfect glory, sets such a high bar, such a gold standard.
Doing better than what 1x Vanilla has done is not an easy task. I think Turtle WoW has done a very good job, but Kargoz points out something very important here, and it's that it's an extremely high bar to try to surpass that, and that's why it's a lot of times being taken to make sure it's done right.
For fun. It's just an incredibly fun game to play that people understand, and has stood the test of time over all the years. So for me, it would just be very difficult to put something out that I would want to play more than this.
Yeah.
But if it were possible, this is probably what it would have to look like for me. Don't touch the classes. Don't touch the talents. These are sacred. They make vanilla feel like vanilla.
So I do slightly disagree with Kargoz here, but there's a caveat at the end. So I do think you can add some. So talents, I'm actually probably with him on that. Turtle WoW did do some minor changes to talents, but it was done right. You could add abilities like Crusader Strike and Taunt and stuff like that, which doesn't technically fuck with the talent trees, which is good. But again, I want to stress the point that you can do things through gearing system. You can add abilities through gear. You can add flavorful things through gear. So I don't think we should completely say let's not touch anything when it comes to class abilities or talents. But you just got to be extremely conservative when you go to those things, and not forget that gear can also add flavor as well.
You are to touch them. You would have to make adjustments to the classes in a very subtle way that doesn't make the game look like really visually different. There's nothing jarring like Metamorphosis out of Sod or Death Grip on Warrior.
Yeah,
it would have to be subtle things.
That's crazy talk.
That wouldn't really shift the meta in terms of like the hyper giga min-max side of things, but would shift the meta on just kind of the more casual front. And what I mean by that is like you could add just a taunt to Shaman and a taunt to Paladin. Like nothing special. It would just be like an 8-second cooldown or a 10-second cooldown basic taunt. Now something like that, like Warriors are still going to be the best tanks, you know, they're still going to scale the hardest and stuff like that, but it would allow the players to cook a little bit more in the sandbox. It would allow Enhancement Shamans too to truly be able to go the distance and like be able to tank a little more effectively, even if they're not the best by any means.
Yeah, very little.
And same thing with Paladins, it would make Prot like just a little bit more service.
I think it's very important to know that like what Kargoz is saying here is that the serviceability is really important, right? We're not trying to fuck with the rankings of who's the best tank in the game. That should always belong to Warriors. Druids are a very, very close second, and if you can actually do that, I think that's really good. If you can give Druids an MCP-like ability that's not attached to the manual crowd pulmer itself, but another item or items at high level, you don't have to have one item. You can have a blue version and a purple version of an MCP that has unlimited charges. So, you know, there's very little things that you really need to do. I don't think the structure of class rankings in certain roles should change. That's a really big take, and I understand people don't like to hear that, but I think that's Kargoz's point, is that anything past that, like I said, there are consequences that we don't understand yet.
A little bit more fun to play, so that might even be like the only adjustment to the classes that I'd recommend, something like that, where you can make one subtle change, maybe to like Boomkin or something to just boost them up a tiny bit, but the game still, 99% of it is like feeling the same. But the main thing I think that I would want to see to make me want to play a version of Classic Plus over just my favorite game of all time would be if they took some of the parts of the map that are clearly there, but there's nothing there, like this.
Okay, all right.
You know, in between Fellwood and Winter Spring, whatever this is.
New zones, new leveling
or some of
content.
these sections
That's what we're talking
that are on
about,
the map,
right?
And they actually flesh them out. They turn them into proper zones, and the zones are beautiful. They're gorgeous. They have unique
The
soundtracks
Hydro
to
map
them
already exists, so you
that
can just,
have really moving music, similar to the Ballad of the Barons or How It Feels to Be in Westfall, like Grizzly Hills tiers music.
I think it's very important to realize that a lot of us are asking for new leveling content, and very little of us, in my opinion, are asking for endgame. Endgame stuff, to me, should be secondary to leveling content. Let me say that one more time. Endgame stuff should be secondary to leveling content if you're going to do a Classic Plus. That's my take.
Where it's just the art is just screaming at you, and it feels very authentic vanilla. It feels like it was always supposed to be there, and you don't have to do anything crazy. Like, you don't need to have mandatory dailies in the zone. Maybe the zone is there and there's one more leveling dungeon in the zone, and that's really it. You know, there's still thorium and mithril and all the normal ore and stuff like that. There's still herbs. You know, it's possible you could put something similar to Devil Sores in that zone, because I think we can all agree that Devil Sores and like the mafia that forms around them and people fighting for the crater, very fun stuff.
Yeah,
and there's really
fun.
no other mobs in the game similar to Devil Sores.
You can add
in that
something
way.
like that. That'd be...
So something like that.
Now we're talking, like, you have to have devs actually play the game to know about this stuff, but... yeah.
Where you just make the world a little bigger. You make the sandbox a little bigger is really the first thing that comes to mind to make
the sandbox
make me
bigger.
want to play it. And somehow,
Slightly
if you
more
could
toys in
get
the
some of the
sandbox.
OG devs involved too,
not-
and learn what they had planned back in the day, and kind of get their blessing on certain stuff and be able to tell that story. Because I've talked with Kevin Jordan.
Yeah, Kevin, if you're listening to this, what would it take for Blizzard? How much money would it take for Blizzard to have you come back for a couple of years, just as a consultant?
Before. I've talked with John Stats before. I've talked with people even at BlizzCon who have been on the team since 2004, and they're able to share insights on like how things were done. And what I've learned over the years is that there were a ton of dungeons planned for Vanilla WoW. The majority of them never made the cut. There's a ton of unfinished content in Vanilla. So finishing that content, expanding the world, not really touching the classes and talents. I think we've seen with SOD that that's a real slippery slope, and the game can quickly get Frankensteined if you touch them too much. That to me is honestly the number one reason why I don't want to play SOD. The classes just don't they're alien to me. Yeah, I don't know why that kills it for me.
Yeah.
They're not the classes I know and love.
alien.
They're not like the vanilla classes. They're just some kind of Frankenstein. And then as far as adding a new raid, I do think if there was to be an attempt at Classic Plus, the people would want more endgame content. I do think if they
I think
did
so
Classic
too.
Plus and there was
We
no
talked
new
about this
raid,
already.
like maybe a 40-man and a 20-man, people would feel like it's not good.
I think that is necessary, Kargoz.
So it's really whether you want to do it after Nax and increase the power level more in vanilla, or maybe you do it before Nax, in between AQ40 and Nax, or the gear is just like equivalent to Nax gear, right around the same power level, but maybe there's interesting effects on it, something like that.
Yeah, it's horizontal progression, right? That's something that also could be done. It doesn't have to go above Nax or below Nax. It could be horizontal, and it could be horizontal in the same tier. Like AQ40 can have a horizontal raid. Because a lot of that gear in AQ40 isn't a huge power boost. It's a half of a tier, right? So adding another piece of content in the 2.5 tier could be really, really interesting. And that'd be the perfect place, actually, to put new content.
I mean, just to wrap things up, because I just want to make like a simple point, is when it comes to Classic Plus,
Less is more.
in my view, it should still feel like home. I want to make the comparison between Classic Plus and regular vanilla, and feel and like my thought process is like I could play regular vanilla, or I could play this other thing that still feels pretty much exactly like the game vanilla that I know and love, but it's a little bigger. There's a little more
Little
to do. And I still feel like I understand it perfectly. I still feel like I understand the previous grind and the sacred items, and you're still excited.
Familiarity is so important. You know, keep it simple, stupid. Less is more. And then familiarity is the key. You have to make sure people are comfortable in the environment. I love his adding a little bit more to the sandbox, extending the perimeter of the sandbox a little bit. That should be the goal.
Excited for SGC. Nothing changes. It's that feeling of mastery, but it's just a little bigger. It's a little more robust of a world, and I think to myself, yeah, I kind of want to play that version. It sounds nice. There's a couple more zones, but that's all. Thank you for watching the video. Comment, rate, subscribe. There's our logo of the server for now.
Great video, and I think that it's very short, punchy, to the point. But I love his concepts about increasing the sandbox and making the game still familiar. Less is more, guys. That's my complete stance. But a lot of us are just very hungry for fresh in some form, whether it's Classic Plus or fresh. You know how I know this?
I cannot gank this guy, is insane.
Do you know how I know this?
Oh
is because Payo
God, it's Yapo.
is dueling himself inside. That's how sad that's the state of things right now, guys, is that my little man is dueling himself in Eastern Playlands. So, you know, I'm using this as a background, as a backdrop to say, like, we're hungry for fresh, guys. We're hungry for fresh, and I'm gonna get going because I'm tired and I need to eat. But great video. It was a lot of fun making this video, and I think that I'd love to hear your comments. What should we be doing for Classic Plus? What are your answers to the questions that the survey had?
Gosh, what she said? Huh?
And
only Payo can beat Payo.
You know, just think to yourselves, what would you do in the situation? What do you want as a lasting classing experience? And you know, there's always private servers, and that's always going to be there. But I think we all want to play together on an official server. Yeah, that's what we all want. So let me know in the comments what you think about my thoughts, Staysafe's thoughts, Kargoz's, Lore's, your answers to the questions. I'll see you in the next video, and keep on and grinding, everyone. See ya.